he was a wizard in one movie. He could time travel.
Yeah.
Wizard.
So,
He's done everything.
Had a kid that predicted the future. Oh no, it wasn't his kid.
It wasn't his kid, but that
He
was
just
a good
found
movie. What was that one called?
Knowing.
And we talked about that last time.
Yeah.
Did we?
The movie Knowing That. So that's a double for Nick Cage and one of the best kind of, I guess it's an alien movie.
Knowing?
Yeah.
Oh, it is, for sure.
100% an alien movie.
Yeah.
That's how it ends with the headlights and all the rocks lift up.
Yeah.
And they come out and talk to
So
them.
sick.
That could be time travelers too.
Speaking of knowing, like the whole premise of that movie, it's like they find, in a time capsule, this code, and then you had to like, he figures it out, right? That's the whole premise of the movie, and like it predicts all these horrific things. But have you guys heard of the hidden code in the Bible?
I've only heard of it. What, and I have some thoughts about this, but what are you?
It probably deserves its own episode, but
I've not.
So I'll tell you like a really quick breakdown. So essentially, as time progressed and technology progressed and computers came around, I think it was like the first time they tried it was like in like the early 90s or something.
I think History Channel has a show called like Bible Code.
Yeah, but the whole premise of this is inside the Bible, they were able to basically create software, download all the pages and words of the Bible, and then it was like almost searchable. They could say like using, do you know what skip code is?
No.
So skip code is like they use it like in wars and stuff where it's like there's like a sequence, right? Where it's like a normal letter and it looks innocent.
They could give you a book, Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah. And then in the book, you would have like, you would know the sequence that it's like 532, 532, 532. So every fifth letter, and then every third letter, and then every second letter, you would write it down and it creates a message, right? So using skip code and the Bible, they basically plugged it all into the software and said, okay, see if it mentions Kennedy, the Kennedy assassination.
Okay.
And so then what it does is it automatically looks and does like the,
does all the different skip
codes that are possible, and it runs it through this software, and it found that it had in skip code it had a message where the name Kennedy was mentioned, and it's like Kennedy assassinated Texas.
But it uses the same like pattern. So the computer, in my mind at least, I'm not smart enough, but it found a pattern that would produce the word Kennedy. But using that same pattern, it had assassinated Texas.
Right. So it's not like
it's
not
just necessarily in that order. You
so
think it's like
easy
assassin,
to go,
Kennedy,
there's nothing here, but
tropical.
Also pretty crazy.
Yeah, so it used like the same skip code, but it was like in the same area of the book though, right? So it's not like it was like, oh, in Genesis it had this, and then in like John it was in this. It was like, oh, in these like 3 pages it had Kennedy assassinated. Anyways, they run through and they basically ran all these different skip codes and put in all these past events. It's all in there.
Sick.
And then they're like, well, will it predict the future? And so then, but the trick is like you have to look for specific words or names or different things.
Right.
Anyways, long story short, you're in there. I'm in there.
Right.
Travis is in there. Everybody is in this book in skip code in some way or shape or form. So then it's like, the question you have to ask yourself is like, was it meant to be that way? Or are we just looking for something that's really not there, but because we're looking for it, it's there? I don't know. But it was super
confirmation
interesting.
Bias.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I like that, and it is interesting. I will say that in a lot of writing that comes from the ancient people, there's always like these hidden messages and codes.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I could see that. But I guess maybe my doubting person is it was translated by, at least the one that they were probably using. I imagine it was King James.
Yeah, it was the King James version.
So it's been translated.
That was my first thought, was like different languages. Does that work?
It's like, okay, if it was in the original
languages.
Like
Greek or Hebrew, maybe. But that could just be me being a doubting Thomas.
And I think, but here's the thing, though. I think they do it in Hebrew. Because here's another side part of that story, is that the Israeli government, they don't necessarily, go and tell everybody they're doing this, but they've been using the Bible and doing skip code and trying to find Bible code for like 30 years. And that there's actual, like, I don't know, confirmation from people within the Israeli government that they've actually, like, went to make a decision and then consulted
The
people
skip
that
code.
knew skip code and be like, is this in the skip code?
Bro.
Like, oh, should we move nuclear weapons to the border of Gaza? Will you check the skip code?
Yeah.
And then it's like if the skip code pops up and says like,
Border.
Israel,
Gaza
border,
destruction.
destruction,
Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Israel
They're like,
blown up. You know what I mean?
Oh, better not.
Then I'm like, don't do that. But there's like actual,
That's wild.
people that are worried about that. And
I need to go
Israeli
check the
government.
Bible and be like, look for like cooking oil, 10-year-old daughter, bad decisions.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. You went to your kids. You're a good person. Me, I was like, Daniel, treasure chest,
XRP.
lottery,
Yeah. Moon.
AMC,
AMC.
Moon is a
short
base.
squeeze.
Short squeeze. Short squeeze.
Well, the moon. Yeah.
I will say.
Moon is a base, but that's
Okay, I actually should do that instead. That's true.
No, you protect your kids. That's probably more important than me being.
Well, protect my
Rich.
kids from me, dude, because I was referencing something in the past. And this just happened. I get home the other day, and my daughter, she was born drug affected, had decided to just take the Costco spray oil,
Right.
so it's extra big,
yeah.
Industrial size.
and just sprayed it on all of our cabinets, microwave, countertops, floor.
Well, it's easy to clean, so that's good.
And then and the only reason I noticed, I walk in and the
gosh.
kitchen just looks particularly,
Glisteny.
like it's just popping.
Right.
And I'm just like, and it's like dark, the lights are off, and I'm like,
You're like, it smells wonderful in here too.
yeah, it's like this olive oil smell.
Yeah.
And I'm like, turn the light on, and my feet, I'm just like sliding around. And in my mind, I'm like, this can't be what it is.
Right. Because
Please.
how would that exist?
That in no world does anyone, even a drug affected 10-year-old,
Yeah. Think to do
think
that.
that I'm just going to spray everything with this cooking oil. And she did, and I asked, what were you thinking? She's like, sometimes I don't think. Like, she's pissed at me.
It's a dumb question to ask.
And here's another little tweak to all of our dot heads out there that might have red hair. In my mind, it often pops in is this because she was born drug affected or because she has red hair? And maybe it's a combo.
Could be a combo.
It could be a combo
Yeah.
because
could
I
be
have heard from several redheads that, yeah, it's a little different.
So is that a little different because there's a little more aggression in the redheaded gene?
Sometimes there's just a quicker movement from, let's call it a normal state to a fight or flight state. And
Okay.
It just seems to be faster. Like, you ever push something really hard and you're trying to just get it to move 1 inch and it won't move, and then it just moves past it?
Yeah.
That's kind of what, like, emotionally it feels like often.
Okay. Okay.
The redhead. And then you're like, well, she's more drug affected. Take it easy. Right? But maybe it's just because she's freaking a mutant and had her DNA altered through generations of exposure
Yeah.
to the sun.
Yeah. That's how she survived.
Yeah, I don't know. But
I could get behind that.
Yeah.
Like even keel.
Yeah.
And then like incendiary or just like
I will say,
stacked right on top of
I
each
will
other.
say later she spilled a bunch of water all over the floor and it beat it right up.
So there you go. Yeah.
So I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, thanks for
Everything
putting
happens
that
for a reason.
finishing lacquer on my floors and
Everything happens for a
cabinets.
reason.
And if that had been like 50 years ago, you could have like
Non-stick.
invented some sort of
Yeah.
like, what if I could put this into a spray on my windshield in
Just
my
market
car, so then the water just.
Heck, I'll just go buy a bunch of cans of that stuff from Costco and be like, hey, just spray this all over your floor, wipe it up with a towel,
Yeah.
water beads right up.
Yeah, spill spaghetti.
Yeah.
It just slides. You just push it off the carpet
Yeah.
into the trash
It's
can.
good.
Yeah.
And then like broken
Well, it was all
hips
hardwood.
and
It was all
shoulders.
hardwood.
And,
Oh well, yeah. Then you're looking at it the wrong way. That's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
That's
Wait, it wasn't
It was.
hardwood
It,
floors?
it was. It was
Oh,
my
okay.
final
She
shot.
did you a
like,
favor.
Yeah, it wasn't carpet. That would have. Yeah.
Like when I came home to my kid having poured an entire thing of olive oil directly onto our carpet that had just been installed like less than a week ago.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, I've literally had the thought that, like, should I move to, like, a Navajo Indian reservation with, like, a cabin with a dirt floor?
Right.
It'd just be so much more relaxing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I spilled? Yeah.
That's all right. Just dig it and turn it
It'll
on.
just sink into the aquifer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Dude.
I had to tell a phrase that came out of my mouth today. I said, I just want you guys to know, normal people don't live like this. I just want you to know. Just so when you go out in the world, you won't be surprised at how, like, clean and sanitary everything is. Like, there won't be food grade cooking oil
All
over everything. But
That
I didn't yell.
that would be quite a
So it
culture
was like a
shock.
freaking huge win.
Yeah.
I've come a long way, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, you're a better person. I would have lost my. Oh, exploded. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I was late tonight. It was like this thing kept stacking up. And it was like, it'll be all right. I can handle that. I can handle that.
All right.
And then right at the last second, it's time to leave, and then that's when all the kids melt down.
Yeah.
If I leave, maybe their older brother like buries them.
Right. You never
somewhere.
know. You never know. Yeah.
So it's like I gotta settle this down before I leave, so that I don't get a call from the police.
What's the risk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It doesn't matter what comes your way. There's always a lesson to be learned, right? Maybe that one's like, I don't know, lock up your shovels or,
Yeah.
I just tell my older
move
kids
somewhere where the ground's super hard.
when you're a dad, you're gonna want to have more patience, and so this is a blessing that you're able to exercise this right now.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Because you could just be like, thank you, universe, for showing me this experience that I now know I don't want to live with cooking oil over everything. Mm-hmm. I don't have to wonder that anymore because I've experienced
Neither
it.
of you guys know for sure that you don't want to.
Right. I may get home and like drop a French fry and it's going to hit and get stuck on something. And I'm going to be like, oh, if only there was already cooking oil on the floor.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like the idiot for not having it.
You know what? Maybe she's onto something.
Maybe she's onto something.
Maybe you'll get home tonight and maybe like, I don't know, the stairs and the railing on the stairs will have cooking oil on it.
It'll be like the bandits.
Dude, it sounds like
from Home Alone, and I'll wibble.
Yeah,
I was gonna say you just pull into the garage.
The paint
and
can
just
smashes
slide.
me in the face. I'm like, what is going on? Sometimes I don't think, Dad. Why did you hang this paint can and smash me in the face? Because sometimes my brain doesn't work. Because she knows she's drug affected, so she'll sometimes use
She
that.
just lean into
she
it.
just leans into it. It's like, you know that my brain doesn't work right. And I'm like,
That's such a
it's true. I do know that.
That's such a hard dynamic. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm crying. Oh my gosh.
But anyway, so yeah, I think that the Bible code might be. I need to check for like cooking oil stuff.
Should have looked at that. Yeah.
If I'd have typed it in, I might have known.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've developed several ciphers.
Murdered in Dallas, Texas. He was shot by a sniper hiding in a building near his.
Holy fuck!
A bizarre flash occurs, and the plane has vanished. Upon
The WEF is an organization.
Fly away, Houston. Vector good. Bye-bye.
Well, I've got a question for you guys.
Okay.
Have you ever like gone outside? It's raining. Okay. And you had to go switch a part on something you're working on, right? For me, it's like
Like a car or something?
yeah, like something you can carry. For me, it was a gun. I had to go switch a part. And I had to go to the garage because that's where all my tools were. And then, have you ever had to run from the garage because your garage isn't connected to your house,
Dude, I actually have a story. You just popped in my head, but yes.
and you have to
Now-
run from the garage to the house in the rain, right?
Of course.
You're carrying something that's valuable. You don't want to drop it. And then for some reason, the actual people that built your house decided to put wood as your stairs into the house instead of concrete or like,
Okay. Yeah.
you
Something
know,
with a little bit of grip to it.
yeah, just straight wood.
Okay.
And you're running because you're like, man, I don't want to drop this.
Yeah.
And then you're hauling butt, and then you go and step on the stairs, and it's a right-hand turn, like a sharp 90-degree turn that you got to make once you get on the stairs into the house. And then you just lose your footing. Oh, and you're in the air, and you're like, shiz, this is going to hurt. And you land on your back on the stairs, right? But your back's wider than one stair. So you're kind of getting like a stair in the back, a stair in the shoulder, and you're kind of like trying to hold it all. And then you're laying there, and you know it makes a big bang noise. And your wife happens to be in the kitchen, and as you're laying there in agony, she starts laughing at you.
Of course.
And then at this point, you're like, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm all wet. I'm laying on the ground, and then I'm just like staring up in the sky, and my first thought is aliens.
Of course.
Yeah.
I knew you were going there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
which is
it is interesting to sometimes stare into the sky under any circumstance, and it boggles. And so
Right.
then this is where I get, back and forth. I'm like, are they real? Are they not real? Because maybe it's just my imagination, because something has to be there, so I'm filling a void.
right, and maybe you were meant to fall at that specific moment, right? And you're laying there on the ground holding your valuable object being rained on. Your back's probably bleeding at this point, and you're just like, am I alone?
Yeah.
Which brings me to the point that we're going to talk about aliens today, and more specifically, Project Blue Book. So,
I love it.
Philly, kick us off on Project Blue Book. What is Project Blue Book for those dot heads out there that have no idea what we're talking about?
Project Blue Book is, to sum it up, it's basically a government program that they hired a guy, J. Allen Hynek, to basically head up the operation of UFOs and aliens. And his job was to discredit any of the UFO sightings across the country. And so
he was assigned this?
When did this happen? Like when did like Project Blue Book like hit the scene? Was this like after Roswell and like that kind of stuff, or is this like later, like more recent?
No, it was like Roswell time.
It's
like
a project that's been going on for like a long time.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
it got shut down in the 80s. I think is when it was officially shut down.
Shut down?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Okay.
I'm sure they just changed. What they'll do is they'll change the name of it.
Yeah,
and then they just continue doing it. But
that makes more sense.
So his job was basically somewhere in like Kansas.
Where Superman was from.
Yeah. So they see
Alien.
a guy flying.
That's a good point.
They see a guy flying through the air. And then that gets reported, right? Government catches wind of that. So then they come out and they investigate. And then this guy, Hynek, his job was to basically have a theory on what they saw was actually like a planet that at that time of day reflected light. And so it looked like there was somebody flying.
That reminds me of
Or like his famous one is it was just swamp gas.
Oh my gosh.
And that like people just said, yep, that's okay. Swamp gas.
It's interesting because I remember the swamp gas thing when I was young, and even as a youngster,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I want to go see the swamp gas, because I just took, back then it was Dan Rather. If it was said over the radio, it was true.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
And so even taking it at face value, that seems pretty interesting. Like, what does this swamp gas look like?
Yeah.
Because I'd already seen it at UFO. I talked about in one of our episodes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's interesting. I didn't know swamp gas could look like that.
Yeah.
Wonder if it was swamp gas in Helena, Montana at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, you try to like, as a young person, you're trying to like link all these truths together, and then it doesn't until later you're like, oh, all the truths don't link together
Yeah,
because they're
yeah.
not all true.
They're just lies to
Yeah.
cover
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah, or misconceptions.
Dude, that's like this goes back again, Hollywood telling us the truth. It's like, I
always
can't remember
do
which
that.
Men in Black movie it is, but like Will Smith's characters like uses his nebulizer and defibrillator or what, I don't know what it's called. Anyways, he flashes everybody and then he's trying to explain to them like why there's a UFO in the street and he's like swamp gas. Anyways, it's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
So for those of you that didn't know, that's why he said swamp gas. That's it. Is that famous
It's a famous line.
famous thing that was so obviously a craft that multiple people saw? That swamp gas just
Yeah, and I
so
It's like
absurd.
lazy.
It's so absurd. Well, that's because, like, I think Hynek, when he was first, like, doing the projects and stuff, he knew, like, UFO is such an absurd thing, stupid. And then as he started, like, going to these things...
was Hynek in Project Blue Book, or was he in the one that it came from, the one Project Grudge?
Well, he's in Project Blue Book. I don't know if he came from another one. I know he was, like, a professor, and that was why they went to him at first, because he was, like, an astrophysicist or something like that.
One of the things when I was kind of studying this, there was Project Grudge first.
Okay.
And then a scientist came in. What was his name? I'm trying to see if I have it down here. It wasn't Hynek,
Okay.
but it was like Chapel or something like that. And he came in and did a report, and he was kind of nervous because he just called him out. He's like, "You guys take all the evidence. All you're trying to do is push this narrative that UFOs aren't true, and these are all crackpots, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." But then one of the guys who had been involved with Project Grudge was pissed that it was like that, but then also he's like, "But I can't explain all of them." So then that was kind of the formulation of Project Blue Book, and then this official story was like, let's relook at everything, let's get actual funding, we'll try to look at stuff with an open mind. And then I guess the ratios were about 60% of them, they said, yeah, these are crackpots. But about 40%, they're like, we need to look further.
Yeah.
So I wonder if he was part of maybe that revolution where he's kind of like you're saying.
Yeah.
He actually kind of started to believe, which you probably would, even if it was fake. If you get that many, you're driving out to the middle of nowhere,
right?
And it's fake.
We'll get more tells.
Was that an alien? Did you guys hear that?
Dude, I don't know. Something's speaking from the other realm.
But I think about that sometimes. It's like, how do you get? And we are all in danger. It's like all the people like we're involved in this world. Like, how do you not get so myopic or influenced by what you're doing? And then to think about what social media can do to you, and it's listening to us right now. I'll probably get an advertisement. It's just cuckoo.
Yeah.
That you're gonna start to believe probably.
Yeah, but but that's the thing is.
And if you listen to Connect the Dots, you're going to start to believe.
Oh, yeah. If you stick around long enough, you're going to be as crazy as we are. But, I don't know. And that's like anything. When something happens consistently over time and time again, like, it's either the whole world's crackpots or there's something to the story.
The thing that kind of gets me, and feeling maybe you maybe know more about this, but I'm pretty recent to this. I didn't realize this, but some of the famous religious depicting paintings from ancient, medieval times, etc., have like the only way you can describe it, if you're being honest, there's a craft, a spacecraft.
I think I've seen some of these.
At least an airplane of some sort in those paintings.
Well, because if you look at the paintings, like Renaissance, even back like pictures of like Christ, they're in there, and so it's like, did they just happen to have a shooting star while like the painter was painting the snapshot, or have these
They'll have like a little
things
person in them.
exist, right?
You know what I mean?
That's what
Like,
it-
it's
yeah.
literally like a Renaissance painting. There's like
A dude up in there.
No
yeah.
way. Are you serious?
You
Yeah,
haven't
there's a
seen it,
little
bro?
there's a little silver one and there's a guy up in it. And it's like
When I saw it, I'm like, that's fake.
no.
It isn't fake.
For
It's-
real?
It's like hanging in a museum.
Oh
That's
my
why it's like,
gosh.
okay, so if
Here, I'll show you. I'll
if
show you.
man has invented the ability to
Check
go
it out,
back
bro.
in time,
So this is a tiny part in the back of a painting.
Oh, is it of like that painting there? Shut up, dude.
Yeah.
How can
it's
look
just
at that.
people going
how
back
can you
in
not
time
call that a UFO?
So
to
look,
witness
so look right here.
things, events.
Oh
So
my gosh,
it's
it's the crucifixion.
Christ is being crucified. There's angels in attendance, and there's also a
Aliens.
Sputnik.
Yeah,
It looks like a.
with a dude.
There's
in it.
two of them,
Yeah.
yeah, they're everywhere.
dude.
So here's a theory. Here's a theory
That's
on that.
wild.
Because it's painted. It was painted. Hold on. I'll tell you when it was painted. Go ahead, Fielding. I'll look it up while you.
So there's a theory that I've heard where when Christ is like getting crucified, right? Yes, your thing.
1350.
No
Yeah,
way.
it was painted in. It's called the Crucifixion, and it's hanging in Kosovo, Serbia. So it's not like hidden. I mean, it's hung there for what 800 years now.
And there's a ton of other photographs that have that.
Yeah.
So this theory's like
There's got to be a thread on Instagram that I can plug in and follow all those.
Christ is during the crucifixion, and they say that it's like 3 days of darkness, and the ground shakes and all that stuff. So there's a theory that it's like a mothership has gotten so close that it's blocked out the sun.
It's Independence Day.
It's Independence Day, and that's what's blocked out the sun.
I don't know, man.
For 3 days, the mothership just stays above while all of this is happening. That's why the sun's blocked out for 3 days,
And if you've never seen anything like that, and it's big enough,
and it's rumbling the earth.
you'd be like, "That's a really dark cloud."
Right? Yeah.
Bro.
And so, and then when
The
it
hair's standing up on the back of my neck right now.
and then
Yeah,
there's a
I'm
theory.
somewhat recent to this too, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then how have I never heard of it before? It's 800 years old, but
Yeah.
apparently just no one thought it was cool until now.
Yeah.
What?
Check this one out. This one shows the Virgin Mary. It's called the Annunciation with Saint Emetius. And this one is kind of cool because we talked a little about that Pinocchio thing with the third eye and stuff. So this
Yeah.
one reminds me of that.
Third eye chakra.
So she's
Yep.
kneeling down and praying, receiving inspiration. You have a depiction of some heavenly messengers out here. And then you have some sort of circular craft shooting a laser beam into
No
her
way.
brain. Of what? Some communication, spirit?
Bro, it's a UFO. It's a circular craft.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And
So-
yeah, go ahead.
So there's like,
What?
so if we live
gosh.
in a simulation or whatever, right? A lot of these events in our history are like big moments in our
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
So obviously people would want to witness that, right?
Right.
So these are just viewers coming to witness this. Or it's such a key moment that it's like the angel, extraterrestrial, however you want to word it, is literally just like beaming the knowledge into that person's head through some sort of technology that we don't know exists. And at the time, that's just normal for them. Like, they're just like, well, yeah, that's
I'm
cool.
actually
That's how
really
people get
enjoying the
revelation.
Tangos Never Heard of it because that's how I felt when I guess it's been about maybe a year and a half ago when I saw that.
Oh, you
Maybe-
get it. There's even like Aztec carvings of things that have like solar systems that have extra stars in them. Like, just
I
nuts.
always believed that the aliens were real. But bro, like, how can anybody not think that?
Something's happening. Now, I will say, okay, I'll do a counter
Dude,
one now
It
because
would be
That's
just,
so
I was gonna
crazy.
Say,
I'm really good at doubting things, so let me just
yeah.
So
What's the official like?
Yeah, find some counterpoints for us.
the only counterpoint that really comes to my mind is like, and it's just an example. Like when I was in like 6th grade, the coolest thing to do when I was in 6th grade was we would take our rulers.
Was this in 1350?
Yeah, it was about a couple years after.
Okay.
But we would take and we would draw these pictures. And for some reason, the awesome thing to do, if you were totally cool, was to draw like this really kind of like a hyper-realistic version of a monster truck.
Okay.
So, and my point is that I don't know why all of a sudden all of us were drawing it like that. And I guess maybe, you're a painter. You probably travel to look at other paintings, I'm imagining, kind of, because they all look really similar. They can't really, I think they had to have seen each other's stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe it was just somebody's like, well, we'll just kind of depict it like this for some random reason, and everyone kind of picked up on that like idea. And even as I'm saying it, I'm like, this sounds pretty lame, but I mean, that is
nice try.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not really trying to convince you, but I mean, there's other anomalies in there. I mean,
Well, you could think of that like
why do we comb our hair the way we comb?
The Bible, like Ezekiel's wheel, like maybe they could be like trying to be part of like the biblical cool things by adding that stuff in to make their picture more religious, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think it's aliens and time travels.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
easy.
I guess where I come and I sit on it, if my official thing is that it, I believe in God, and I think He's real, but that doesn't mean that He's not an alien.
Yeah.
So,
by definition, he.
and I believe that He can
By
travel
definition,
around.
yeah.
I believe He can move.
Mm-hmm.
I think He can obey our time.
Yeah.
I don't think He has to, but He can.
He can plug himself into
So
our time.
so then if that's the case, then He would be limited by it, by choice.
Mm-hmm.
So don't, I'm
Everybody
not
chill
limiting
out.
God.
Everybody chill out.
He's choosing to come into this plane of existence.
Right.
And so then He would travel somehow. Well, okay, well, why not
Yeah.
some sort of really advanced technology or something?
Well, that was like Eric
Yeah.
von Daniken or something like that of the Chariots of the Gods.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about like in the Bible, it talks about when God comes, it's like there's this fire from the sky and the earth rumbles and all that. And he's like, well, my God doesn't need that stuff to move around. Like He can just like float around. And it's like, well, yeah, He could, or He could also just travel around like that, like rocket propulsion. Maybe it's like a retro way of like traveling around where like you could have a really nice car that's like a Tesla, or you want to drive around in like a Corvette,
he's
like
into
muscle
classics.
car. Yes, yeah. So you come rumbling
He's
up,
like, hey guys.
vroom, vroom, flood the engine as it goes in.
I don't want to be too flippant about anything, but like, hey, other supreme beings, you guys want to head down to Earth
Yeah.
for the classic car convention?
And they're like, yeah, let's go. All right, hop in. And they're like, you think this thing runs?
That could be.
Oh, yeah, we'll get down safely. Don't worry.
True. I don't know. I don't know. There is a lot of evidence of weird, like even in like India, they have
The Vimanas?
The Vimanas.
Yeah. They even have...
I don't even know what that
the
is.
Vimanas
Oh my
even have a
gosh.
blueprint on how it works and how it flies.
Sorry, I'm trying to wipe the tears out of my eyes. I'm like envisioning like an old school like.
Classic. Yeah.
He's
That was
flipping the
basically...
switches.
that's basically how he's running.
So Daniel, check these out, bro. This is a Vimana, our artist's interpretation of what a Vimana looks like. Now, the reason this is interesting is that this is from books found in India that describe this. How old are they filming?
The Vimanas?
No, the books about them.
Oh, they're super, super old.
Yeah, they're
Super,
like
super old.
2,000, 3,000 years
Yeah.
old. And
But
they
they
basically describe these buildings that can float around and shoot like weapons out of
Yeah.
it. And they had a war.
Well, there's a
war in heaven.
The
against
Vimanas.
These Vimanas
Yeah.
against each other.
And they shoot like this arrow. One of their gods shoots an arrow, and it like acts just like a nuclear bomb when it goes off. And it talks about like it's fire, and it just vaporizes everything around it.
Sick.
But like they have things like their books talk about exactly how the Vimana like works, flies, how the energy comes from, how the anti-gravity stuff works. And so when they carry around those like pot things, that's all like symbolic of like the Vimanas.
Oh,
But then
no
it
way.
gets even weirder, because then you take that and then you relate some of those descriptions of energy weapons and stuff, and you think, well, what about like Zeus?
Yeah.
And Zeus is a god. He's in his mountain that's floating,
Yeah.
throwing freaking lightning
Thunderbolts.
bolts out of it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I never would have thought of that.
I mean, it gets really weird because there's so many these consistent like elements, like, and we're getting way because I think when we think of aliens and we only look at them like, well, is it these little green men or these grays or whatever? I think it's easy to be like, that's stupid. That's not it.
Yeah.
Or we just misinterpreting the whole thing, and all of these things are somewhat related. Because another one that comes to mind is like you think of like Quetzalcoatl, and he's coming, he's like teaching these primitive people how to like live. Well, like literally 50 different cultures have that
same story.
Same exact
Yeah.
thing. So, all right, one or two, you're like, okay, and then it goes back to it. I forget who was just saying it, but like, well, yeah, how many people have seen a UFO? Mm-hmm. I mean, the weird part is even since no one's really listening to us yet, we're like, I don't know
Yeah.
how big we are right now. But I still have people coming up to me like, I saw an alien. Or, excuse me, no one's seen an alien. But they told me that.
I'm like, well,
I've
close
seen-
encounter of the third kind. You can get it out of here.
No, I've seen a UFO. And people were not afraid to say it. They
Yeah.
believe they've seen a UFO. I've seen one. And so, it's kind of weird.
This is where my mind goes then, because there's all these similarities in historical events. There's these spaceships and paintings from freaking 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
This is where my mind goes then. We have Project Blue Book, right, which is like on the books, and people know what it is apparently. But is this like all this historical context that supports the idea of UFOs and contact with, aliens? Is that something that has been suppressed for thousands of years, or is it's been suppressed over the last 100 years and they've just done such a good job of it, it's just not talked about anymore, and that's why like I'm sure there's UFOs and paintings, you know what I mean?
It could be because like there's I talked about a while ago the Tartarian Empire that like ruled all of Russia.
And they have the little eggs, the
Did they?
like seeing stones, whatever it was.
No, that was
That was that Sumerians.
that was the Sumerians.
Sorry,
They're like,
Tartarians. My
Tartarian
bad.
Empire, but it goes into like you look at like even like America's history. There was like a time where they had. Do you remember like insane asylums? And have you heard of like the railroad kids, like the orphans? They like shipped out like thousands and thousands of kids on the rails and like railroad system, and like they restarted town. So there's photos from like San Francisco, and there's like nobody in the streets anywhere.
Speaking of San Francisco, go Niners.
And so the theory is that like what we're living through, we like society, everything just gets reset every couple years. Couple thousand years. So like, yeah, maybe all that stuff was common. It's now been reset, and now like that stuff is being hidden from us. So that we don't know
And that kind
of free energy. We
Right.
don't know like diets or stuff. Like people in the Bible lived hundreds and hundreds of years,
right.
and
Freaking McDoubles.
we're like dying at
and they were like
like 80.
27 feet tall,
Yeah,
according to some reports.
yeah.
That's a
More
big deal.
oxygen in the air.
More oxygen in the area.
But like, yeah, I think it's somebody somewhere made a decision to keep that stuff hidden. Because I think our history, and this has always been like my favorite when we used to have those meetings in Cottonwood, and it was like, what's your favorite conspiracy? And mine was always like, the history like of humanity I think is not what it really is. And I don't know what it really is, but
Right.
there's so much stuff that's like we just don't know about.
One I recently heard, and maybe we talked about
That
it on the
old
podcast.
civilizations like did know that, and we just like
Right.
don't know.
So it's like Atlantis and like all these like
Yeah.
one I recently heard. Maybe we talked about it. Maybe that's where I heard it. I can't remember. My memory's terrible. But the idea that kind of like what you're saying is like there's a reset button that happened at some point, and it's like there's a rule of thought that humanity's only been on Earth for like maybe 5,000 years because Adam and Eve came down, and that's the record that we have.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Adam and Eve came down after there was some cataclysm that wiped the face off the planet. That was the end of Earth 2.1.3, and now they just started 2.2. You know what I mean? And so it's like
they're already on Grand Theft Auto like 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty immersive world, I've heard. So
Yeah.
we could just be in a pretty immersive world.
Right.
Which I think is another theory, because you think when
Sorry, Daniel.
That's good. Yeah.
you like get to heaven, right, and every thought, every action is recorded, right, and you're judged.
Ugh. Let's
Like
hope not.
what do
Give
we
me a short of my life.
Yeah. What do we own that knows every keystroke? Like companies knows how long your mouse hovers over something. If we're in a giant computer system, then like
kinda
when
makes
we
sense in a
die,
weird way.
like everything that I've thought, my heart, that's gonna be known.
And they can give you a score then.
Right.
You get
Yeah.
an 81.
Which is good because I'm going for 51% service to
Oh,
others.
that wasn't a percentage. I picked an arbitrary number that you could interpret any way you want. That could be.
Well, I'm taking it good.
That could be out of 81.
Could be like an SAT
or
score.
it could be out of
700,000.
So I don't know.
Okay.
No judgment from me.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna be pretty low on that scale.
That would make sense. Like that it's just a
I
simulation
thought about
we're
that.
in.
Elon Musk actually flipped on this. And he's like, that voice he has. He's like, actually, it makes a lot of sense if we're in a simulation. I'm like, what? And then as he went through, I'm like, oh, that actually kind of makes sense. And then I'm like trying to mate it up with like, all right, well, where are my pre-existing beliefs? All of them would still work. Well, there is one my son brought up. What did he bring up? 'Cause I flipped it on him. Gosh dang it. It's basically like, we also believe we're down here to get our bodies connected to our spirits so that we can be resurrected.
Yeah.
So I think he's like, and I go, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that couldn't also happen.
Yeah. Well, that's like
maybe we're in the simulation right now. Our bodies are in some like container, and they're just being like little
And then when you
robots are
open
building
it,
them.
It's like a little package of tennis balls, like.
yeah,
Yeah.
a little pressurized.
And then next thing you know, you like die, and then like they pull the plug, and you're like, oh, dude, I'm in my body forever.
yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't know.
could be,
Yeah,
because
I'm
that's like one of
I'm
the
like
theories.
feeling for the plug. It's back there somewhere.
I
One-
think I would want to look like Alan Rickman.
Interesting choice.
Yeah,
But
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
not a bad
Not
looking
in the
guy.
face.
I would
just
like
the
a
body.
I would
The
like
body
a,
of Alan
I would like a
Rickman.
Chris
Okay.
Hemsworth type
Okay.
build.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't want to work for it though, but I just want it.
Fielding just wants to look like Fielding.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm all right. That
I
works.
should have said I wanted to look like Fielding. Dang it.
Yeah,
That would've been
we
funny.
can re-edit it so
Yeah.
you can say.
Do you know what I want to look like?
Do you want to? Who do you want to look like?
Fielding.
Oh, dude, yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
And the magic.
Little movie magic.
Editing.
Because it's real. Well,
Oh,
you
man.
look at so our solar system, right? And then there's other solar systems and galaxies that have different shapes, I guess. And you know how they put sound or sand on a speaker and then they tune different frequencies and it creates the same
Bro,
shapes that
I
those
just
other
saw a video on this.
Did you
You've been
really?
talking about frequencies,
I-
and I think my phone heard you say
Yeah.
it and brought it just recently.
That's because I exist on the Fielding frequency, so that's why.
Dude,
Dude, that's so weird because I recently saw one of those too.
finish your thought because I just saw a video on this.
Okay. So it's just like sound and frequency. So we exist in a realm that's like there's these shapes that can be made because they're different, like we're keyed and toned to different things. And so I'm going to go a different topic, then we can jump back to that. But they had, they say that like Mars, there's evidence that Mars was like erased in like nuclear war. So all the stuff around the atmosphere, how are they able to do it? They're able to tell that's like, that's residue from like a nuclear explosion 100,000 years ago. Or
The residue is like a certain type of mineral that can like
It only exists.
that only exists after a nuclear explosion,
Yeah.
and the Mars rovers have found that all over Mars.
So you have that with Mars. You have the government in like the 60s did Project Brilliant Stones or Brilliant Pebbles. It's something like that. But they took the asteroid belt and they reversed it, computer simulation, over hundreds of thousands of years. And it perfectly goes back to like a massive Earth-sized planet that's between where like the asteroid belt would have been. And then they have like ancient records of people on Earth that talk about like their ancestors had a huge battle. It's going to sound really crazy because I'm not going to do it the whole
Hold
thing.
on a second. Time out for the audience. All you dot heads out there. Fielding just said this is going to sound really crazy, so buckle up.
Yeah.
Because his crazy's like,
Yeah.
it's out
So
there.
Saturn, the rings of Saturn are allegedly a weapon that like can shoot energy out and destroy other planets.
Dude, I'm not ready for this one.
So they were told like
All right.
like these there's like the builder race, and they're the ones who kind of seeded everything. So they were like talking to this group, and they're like, don't do it. And they patched in, because there's ways through like dark matter where you can like kind of time warp teleport, and they didn't listen to it. They powered up Saturn. They shot the weapon, except they didn't have the math right, and so it shot back on their own planet, blew it into like 1 billion pieces, and then that over time becomes like our asteroid belt. Haven't really talked about the builder race before on here, but the builder race, apparently there's a lot of stuff on all the different planets. There's a moon on, or a monolith on one of the Titan moons. Buzz Aldrin talks about it. There's a photo of it.
What?
And
Like the
all that-
monoliths, like the one that was found in Utah.
Yeah. So there's
Like 2001
yeah,
Space Odyssey.
yeah. Like look up. There's a picture of it on Neil Armstrong. No, not Neil. Buzz Aldrin. He's talking about the monolith, and he just brings it up like in his old age that like talks about like he forgets that
That guy, he wasn't.
people don't know
He's
that.
stay on his meds.
And
He's giving away all our secrets.
so supposedly there's a bunch of stuff like inside the honeycomb earth of ancient tech from the builder race, and
Slam dunk.
Antarctica has a ton of stuff like that.
So this is a real thing.
I'm telling you, dude, none of it's just like
Buzz Aldrin
Made
knows
up by
the
me.
existence of a monolith on Phobos
Phobos. There you go.
that is a moon of Mars.
Ah, I was way off with
You were
Titan.
way off with Titan, but it is more interesting because, okay, so then if you're a builder race and there's a nuclear thing then possibly that destroys Mars, well then,
Saturn's Death Star. He missed that.
I mean,
part.
we're probably gonna
Yeah,
we'll
Saturn's
probably
Death Star, you missed that one.
we'll probably put a monolith on the moon
Yeah,
when we go there eventually.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can't get there because
The
You have-
Phobos
you have to
they
be able
have
to
a
get through
picture
the
of
barrier.
they have a picture
water
of
all
the
out there.
Phobos monolith on Wikipedia.
yeah, yeah.
Dude, how
That's
is,
where
like-
that's where like if you look at things, they kind of tell you what's going on,
I get why they
and
do
you
it
get
like
your
this, 'cause I'm
crazy
just like,
red
okay,
string, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that
I
makes sense.
don't have enough processing capacity to be like, okay, well, yeah, that's all right.
Well, that's like, I mean, that's why it's like when you start opening your eyes to this stuff and you're like looking at it through a different lens. Because like I feel like the majority of people have like rose-colored glasses on, everything's fine, and they're given information in different pieces and at different points in time and circumstances, and then no one's like actually looking for it, so they don't know to put the pieces or connect the dots, so that they can actually get the full picture. And that's why like some of this stuff, like I've, especially over the last like maybe year, I've really started diving deeper into like a lot of this kind of stuff, and you guys are teaching me stuff all the time. But God, dude, if you're just looking for it, You see it everywhere.
And then you hear like religion and different religious stories, and it's like, yeah, if it ties into like we're all trying to like progress, to be better, to be kind to one another, to forgive, like all of this stuff that makes us better people, right? All these choices that we have. That's what everything and everybody's doing, is just trying to progress forward. And then you have people that don't want you to progress, and so then they're fighting against you. And like there's all these little tales and all the religions across the world and all these fables and things that kind of tell the same story, where if you see it, it's a lot easier to see it in everything.
Right. So if you go back to like Project Blue Book, then to me, it's hard for me to give like a lot of credit to the federal government that they were able to like run such a good cover story on like all of this. It almost makes me think that like, you know, yeah, like the like Project Blue Book exists, right? They went and investigated all these UFO
That would be
incidences.
so much more skilled than.
Yeah, and I just don't see it. Like I can't even get the IRS to do anything that I want them to do.
That's
right?
why.
Or
That's why I think
takes
you
the
have,
ATF like a year to approve a suppressor. Like, come on.
That's
like,
because I think you have the government, and then you have like the shadow government, right? Because our government answers to people for things, right?
right.
That's why Project Blue Book was like, hey, just don't say that this stuff is real, like whatever.
Oh, I
Your
see.
job
Yeah.
is to disprove
That would make
it.
sense.
So then this government is answering to somebody or something, right?
Right.
So then,
That-
yeah, the IRS is a bunch of dummies, and this other thing, government, is a bunch of dummies, and it takes forever to do things, and you still have to pay things with like a check to the government because it's not a well-run machine. But there's something behind the scenes that's a little more
dialed in.
dialed in, right?
Well, and you think about it too. It's like, you know, whether you're talking like secret societies or, you know, Illuminati or, you know, black hats, white hats, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because like I think about like at work and like experiences I've had with work or experiences I've had in like college, high school, right? It was always easy to do like a project or something when you only had like one or two people on your team.
Yeah.
Right. But then as soon as you like implement like 5,
Yep.
7,
Yeah.
10, 100, everything becomes so convoluted and so hard and so difficult that it's like getting to the end result is like, it just doesn't happen. So I can see there being like some kind of secret, you know, shadow government that's not like in our minds what a government actually is, of like thousands of employees and all these different levels and, you know, rules and regulations and stuff. It's like, no, this like a group of maybe 10. And they're like, this is how things should be run. This is how we are going to, you know, manipulate the narrative or whatever. Because, yeah, God, man, because the more and more I look, dude, the more and more, especially like talking about aliens, like,
Yeah.
I see it everywhere.
Well, you look at like Star Wars, right? Like they had the Empire,
Right.
and that was run like Darth Vader was like leading the Empire. But Darth Vader answered to
Darth Sidious.
Yeah. And so, like, and people didn't know about Darth Sidious or Palpatine or whoever.
Right.
I can't think of what the like actual name is. It may actually be the person you're saying, but like,
Yeah, same person.
so he's answering to like one person, but then there's all the different generals and all the different things that are all over that are running it, but people don't know that it's just like one person
Right.
whose view of things, and that's where you get into like Soros has so much money and power across all kinds of countries, like,
Oh, yeah, that's
and there's
a
these
weird
people
one.
that don't have like they cross, there's no state lines for them or like country lines, like they can just act with power. And then is like Soros a powerful person, or is he just like taking orders from somebody?
Right. Like there's another person behind him.
Yeah.
The devil.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
think Soros would be that close to the devil,
I
but
don't think he's ranked high enough, huh?
I don't think he's ranked high enough.
I think he's
Low enough?
probably
He's
pretty
living
close.
for a long enough time, though. He's been around
he
for a
is alive.
long time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, shoot, dude. That's, yeah. It's interesting because, like, I mean, we know that, like, governments have covered stuff up. We know that, you know, I don't know. I just hope one day that, like, all their dirty laundry gets aired out. And maybe I live long enough where I can see the day that, like, the shadow government is no longer in the shadows.
Yeah, that's the timeline that I live on, so yeah. It's happening, dude. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay, all right. We're
Yeah.
good then.
Yeah, it's
We're
good.
good.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I love that idea. I'm still a little hung up on the pictures. I'm gonna like deep dive into that tonight.
It's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah,
The whole religion thing, because a lot of these people that I follow their theories and stuff, like they're Christians, they believe in Christ, and they have like tablets, these white stones that they say can go back and they can view points in history, and like some of them gone back and said that they watched it and wish they hadn't, but you could like watch the crucifixion if you wanted to go back and witness it, which I think would be not a fun thing to watch, but
no. Well, I guess a question. I want to ask both of you. I'm gonna ask Travis first. Where do you see it going though? Right? Like, and I guess to give it more context than that is, you know, you have Project Blue Book, and I'm sure it's not the only project. I'm sure there's black book budget type, you know, not on paper projects out there that are trying to manipulate narratives and all that kind of stuff. But where do you see like this, like aliens going, right? Like, I feel like the government's talking about it more. People are like wanting to know more about it. There's talk of like, you know, ultimate disclosure. What are your thoughts, Travis? Like, where do you think the alien narrative goes?
You know, that's a good one. Great question. It's interesting. I don't necessarily think that like alien is such a word that it's been operationally defined, right? It's been kind of like,
right.
And even in my mind, I think of aliens and it's like, you know, Independence Day and they're like, you know, like tentacles. And so I really just think the aliens it's more like how we describe people from other countries. Mm-hmm. They're aliens because they're not from this world, right?
Right.
But I do believe they're most likely created in God's image. And so where is it going? It depends on who the aliens are.
yeah.
Are they God-fearing Christian aliens, or are they, you know, I mean, you see all different kinds of people on Earth.
Right.
Some of them I would want to be around, some I wouldn't. Some I'd let watch my kids, some I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I'm a little bit afraid because I believe that if our government's involved, they're probably into like dominating humanity.
Right.
Even though I'm saying they're kind of like humans, but they're not. Are they human if they're not from the Earth? I don't know. But, you know, I mean, the Earthlings, they want to dominate the Earthlings.
Yeah.
Maybe they're super advanced. Maybe they helped create us. So we were created in their image, you know? So I don't know. But now they're there's the war in heaven, and you start overlaying. You remember those books? Maybe you guys are too young, but we had books and have like a picture of like a rhinoceros, and then you'd like have this little film that you could pull back, and it'd pull the skin back, and then you'd be able to see like the inside of the rhinoceros, and then you pull another film back, and they were kind of overlaid over each other. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. So it just depends. Like, how far do you want to look to see who it is they really are?
Right. And do you want to know that?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what's scary to think about.
And so I guess short answer is, I think the answer is in listening and reading the scriptures, and that's how it'll play out. And that's kind of like a macro image of how it's going to work.
Right.
And that's kind of the end game, but it probably will look a lot different. And I think it's interesting too, the Jews, the Israelites, whatever, they had read the religious texts and were waiting for this certain kind of Messiah to come, right? Right. And we as Christians believe he came, and they don't.
Right.
Because he didn't really match some of the descriptions of what they thought he would be.
Which is such an interesting thing. Like,
Yeah.
why don't they think that he was Christ? And then also, why do we think that he was Christ?
And they believe he was special. They believe that,
Because
but
they think he was just a prophet.
yeah,
He wasn't
I
a
think,
Messiah.
and don't quote me on that. Like, I know that Islam thinks he was a prophet.
Okay.
He might have just been a great teacher, a rabbi,
Right.
to the Jews. But my point is that, like, all right, so we probably have a similar problem where we're reading the scriptures, we've interpreted them certain ways, and the true nature of what will happen could easily be something we mismatch with.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if he comes back
Yes.
and it isn't like with a white beard and he's freaking
Flighting
riding a
in the
freaking
sky,
chariot,
yeah.
and you're like, well, that's not a chariot, that's a spaceship, or
Right.
so
Which
it can't,
aligns.
so it can't be true.
Yeah.
And I think so. That's one reason I want to just keep an open mind. Like,
Yeah.
if he comes back and he's just a dude in a throne that flies,
Yeah.
and he has a white beard, and okay, great.
Yeah.
And then, but also, keep my eyes peeled. What if he has a different nature? I want to look for the fruits,
Right.
etc.
Right.
Right. I like that.
That's a good answer.
What about you, Philly?
Let's see if I can remember it. Where is it going? Right.
Yeah, like where do you think it's going in regards to like, yeah, whether it be government cover up, disclosure, aliens coming to Earth, like where do you see things going?
So I agree with Travis's initial thing of like, it depends on who we're following, right?
Right.
And you have all the different aliens, different alien races. You have the Greys, which if you follow Tom DeLonge, his point of view, the Greys are abducting humans because humans have souls and have the opportunities to get body. The Greys do not have that opportunity.
That's an interesting one.
So they're
'cause that one's
abducting-
interesting because if you think of the old art again, they show like demons like preying on people's souls.
Yeah.
Right?
So they're trying to get like our souls out so that they could put themselves in to get like our bodies, right? If they're like the Nordics, those are the ones that wanted Eisenhower to shut down all of our
You call
nuclear.
them the Nordics?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
talked about that in was it like the Roswell episode?
Yeah.
They're like the fair skin.
Yeah, they just
very
look
pretty
like white haired, like Scandinavian
Aryans.
like looking people, possibly.
Crazy.
So they wanted to shut down nuclear capabilities. Apparently, they met with Eisenhower, and that's what they wanted, and he didn't want to, and so they didn't end up doing that. He made a deal with a different race of aliens, and that's why they're allowed to like abduct cattle and stuff. So it depends on what alien race that they've sided with. I think we are heading towards either disclosure, free energy, peace on Earth, all that hippy jippy stuff.
Sick.
Or we're heading towards like total enslavement, zero freedoms.
Not
We
sick.
just work for the machine, blah, blah, blah. So the frequency I exist on, that's where I'm like, white hats are in charge. God wins. And what we're working towards, and you have the good guys, bad guys fighting, is that we will eventually get into the point where we have the free energy, food is abundant, like people aren't working themselves to death, like, and everybody lives in peace. Those that were doing bad things and hurting other people and wrongdoing people, they, face their justice. And then we live in a world with free energy. Maybe we could travel the stars and stuff. But I think we're headed towards one of those points.
One of those.
Eventually we'll get there, right? That's what the millennium is.
Right. And I think that's where like religion ties in. Religion is that one that ends with peace and prosperity, and those that did wrong will like face punishment for those things. And that's the one that I subscribe to. So
Right. That makes sense. It's funny because having like recently started diving into this stuff and trying to like come up with my own opinions and like my own like frequency, I guess, or timeline or whatever. Yeah. Frequency, I love it. It's pretty funny. I just can't wait for you to disappear at the end of this episode again. That was crazy.
Maybe not, man.
I don't know. I'm crossing my fingers. Okay, but see, for me, it's like, obviously I'm religious, and all my life growing up, it was always like I had this vision of like, you know, angels floating and coming down out of the clouds, and like, you know, second coming, and walking down this like cloud staircase is like Christ coming again, and all those kinds of things. But as I've gotten older and as I've like formulated my own opinions and had my own experiences and stuff, I'm very big into science. I love science. I love space. I love, you know, learning and history and all these things. My personal view is I think we read things and we think of it as like these majestic, you know, situations. But I'm learning now that these people didn't have the context that we have, right, of airplanes and technology and those kinds of things. So they did their best to explain things they didn't understand. So for me, if, you know, Christ comes again and it's the second coming, I'm more along the lines of I would expect it to be like a spaceship lands, here comes Christ, and I don't know, maybe he's in a spacesuit, you know, and not to...
That'd be wild.
You know, I'm not in any way trying to, you know, I don't know, what's the right word? Be disrespectful to who Christ is. But in my mind, I'm like, if that happened, I've opened myself up to that idea and I'm accepting of it. That like like what Travis was saying, my religious views and everything leave space for either one of those situations.
Right.
My I don't know, prediction of what the future looks like, knowing the government, I think the government is either one of two things. Either A, they're conditioning us for disclosure, or they're going to do what I think they always do, and they're going to try to give you just enough to get you to stop bugging them about it, and then they'll continue to try to control the narrative, hide the truth, not let you know what's really going on, and never admit that they ever knew aliens or that Roswell or he was a UFO, that it's all just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and that's what they want you to believe. And I think the real disclosure will be when, I don't know, we wake up one morning and I'm mowing my lawn and I look up and there's a, you know, 15-mile wide spacecraft landing at church headquarters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that to me is probably more of my expectation now of what things would look like in the future, as opposed to,
Yeah.
you
Or
know,
the sky just shuts off one day, and then the plane just like,
it's like Truman
everybody
Show.
just elevates up, and then like the lights turn on, and we're just like on this huge platform, and
Like the
show's
holodeck in
over.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because I had a good friend who he loves science fiction, and he read a science fiction book. I could probably even ask him about it, but similar, kind of like these, maybe call them big ideas or something about what we're talking about. But
Right.
for me, it's like it's almost made me have a stronger testimony that God must be real in some.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And for him, it was the opposite.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was like, because it was more like a future, and it's like what human beings could achieve, and that made us so it wasn't a God. And so I just think it's interesting that all this stuff can be interpreted so many ways, and ultimately it comes down to me that you have to choose to believe something. Mm-hmm. If you try to I think this stuff's interesting, but I don't want to like get into like trying to prove that there's a God.
Yeah.
Because anything you can prove can be disproved. I mean, it's like it's the other side of that coin, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I like having more of just a faith in it,
Yeah.
for when times get tough, because knowledge is power, but it can be just like any other weapon; it can be used against you. So
Yeah.
Well, it's just like how Daniel said, like he's open to that. Like yeah, it might be, it might not be. Like, and I think all of us have like a compass within us, and we keep it pointing towards our north,
Right.
and whatever that may be. And yeah, I don't know how, like, you hear some things and then it's like, oh, well, that, must be not true. But I think it's like, it all ties in perfectly, in my opinion. And I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Awesome. Any final thoughts you guys have, or
I think I hit
good
mine.
ending point?
I think I hit mine. Yeah, just this is fun to explore and stuff, but anything we say, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I'm
It's-
not hanging my hat
it's-
on it,
It's pure nonsense.
except when Fielding disappears.
Except the frequency that I exist on.
Yeah, that's freaking crazy.
Yeah.
He left a lot of smoke in the room last time. It was kind
Yeah.
of crazy.
The other Fieldings I answer to.
And they're on their own frequency in their own timeline.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that Calvin and Hobbes where he duplicates himself, the duplicator. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he
Yeah.
sends one to school and he sends one to do his laundry, and the other one, then they revolt against him.
Well, if you like '90s movies too, the one with
Multiplicity.
Michael Keaton. Multiplicity is just so good. Michael Keaton.
I don't think I've seen that one. I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, it's like in his shed or
Classic 90s.
He's so stressed, and then he goes into the shed, and there's some sort of way that he can make a copy. Then pretty soon it just gets out of hand. It's pretty funny though.
That's usually how it goes. Cool. Well, big thanks to my buddies Travis and Fielding.
Yeah.
Couldn't do this podcast without them. And also a big shout out to all of our dot heads out there. Right now on our YouTube channel we have 159 subscribers.
Nice.
We're in the very beginning. And so it'll be cool to look back in like 2 years and we see when we have like 2 million subscribers and be like, man, you remember when we had
I thought you were going to say
159?
200.
2 years from now, I hope we find 41 more people that are interested in this.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. I think it is. But anyways, we couldn't do it with all of our subscribers. We couldn't do it with support of, obviously, these two fellas. And we do enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. But also, make sure you like and subscribe. It's like such a cliche thing for people to say that in the video, but it's so important for all of us that are creating this type of content. It's cool to see when people subscribe because it keeps me motivated. It keeps me excited that there's people out there that enjoy what we're doing and and want to dive into some of the mythical and conspiratorial topics that are out there. But yeah, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Follow us on our social media. All the links will be in the description below. And most importantly, don't forget that you're a champion.
Yeah.
You're a champion. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So, and then this is the great moment where Fielding's going to disappear.
I'm going to go back to my frequency.
Don't